Michaelnagar Shikshaniketan Higher Secondary Government-sponsored co-ed English medium school has taken an excellent initiative of teaching and make our students learn day-to-day lessons through audio and video in our YouTube channel. Teachers of all the subjects are working hard to enhance these online classes in the midst of this pandemic situation. It is a request to all the teachers, students and guardians to click the bell icon and subscribe our channel.
Friends, hope you are doing fine and great in this apocalypse, but this pandemic has created a lot of trouble and has altered our lifestyle, but that doesn't mean we are going to stop studying. So for your second summative, in biology, chapter number 3, that is physical process of life is present, and for this I am going to start with photosynthesis, your first topic. So what is photosynthesis? We all know, we have studied a lot before also, that the green plants, with the help of sun and water, they make the simple sugar that is there for their food, that is glucose. So we are going to write it in formula. So what do the plant take? What did the plant take from the atmosphere? They take carbon dioxide and water and make it into simple sugar, that is glucose, and give us oxygen. So it's quite simple, right? You can take carbon dioxide and water and mix it and produce sugar. But it's not that easy, because it's not like we are doing it in a kitchen. We need a lot of energy, a reservoir full of energy, and also we need a medium. Also you need an antenna pigments, that is the chlorophyll. It is only present in plants. So that is the reason why only green plants can then transfer the solar light into energy. About photosynthesis, about this process, what do plant needs? Plant need 3 things, 3 raw material, that is carbon dioxide, they get it from the atmosphere, water, they get it from the soil, and they need sunlight. So, about sunlight, I am going to say, the sunlight has various wavelengths. Okay, the sunlight has various wavelengths, which is divided like in infrared, visible light, then there is ultraviolet ray, cosmic ray. So, but the plants, they only absorb the light from the visible part of the spectrum. Okay, but there's one thing also, the pigments, the various pigments of plant, they doesn't capture the same single wavelength. They capture various different wavelengths by various different pigments. So while capturing the wavelengths, a curve is plotted, and this curve that is plotted from the absorption of various wavelengths by the pigments or by the various pigments is known as absorption spectrum. You have to remember this, absorption spectrum. And what is action spectrum? From the plot, the rate of photosynthesis of various wavelengths by the pigments, by the various wavelengths captured by absorbed by the pigment, is known as action spectrum. So action spectrum means the rate of photosynthesis by the pigment of various wavelengths, and absorption spectrum means the various pigments capture various wavelengths at various wavelengths, and the curve that is being found, that is the absorption spectrum. Next, okay, this total thing is divided in 2 phases. One is the light phase, and the other, that is opposite of light, that is the dark phase. So by the name you may say that this occurs in light. Yes, this occurs in light, but that doesn't mean the dark phase occurs or happens in the dark, in the dark time. No, both the processes occur simultaneously. So why the name? Because in light phase, sunlight is needed for all the mechanism. But in dark phase, total process is independent of sunlight. So that is the reason why it is dark phase. Or we can also call it as Kelvin C3 cycle or Kelvin cycle. Okay. In the light phase, what happens? In the light phase, the plant gets all the raw materials it is needed, and in the dark phase, it cooks. It cooks with the raw materials. So what happens in the light phase is very important. I'm going to show where it occurs as well after this. So in light phase, what happens? Water that is taken by the roots is broken down. By whom? It is broken down by photon. What are photon? Photons are the particles of or the particles of sunlight. So photon comes in and it breaks water, and it breaks it into hydrogen and oxygen. So what happens? This oxygen then goes away from the plant, from stomata, and this hydrogen is kept. And this total process, as a breaking down of water, is also known as photolysis of water. Photolysis. Photo means light. Lysis means breaking down. With the help of light, the water is breaking down. Hence, it is called photolysis of water, which is also known as Hill's reaction. Why? Because Hill is the name of the scientist that have first discovered this process. So that is also known as Hill's reaction. So what happens? Not only oxygen that is produced, we need oxygen for our respiration and everything. So this oxygen is produced from the photolysis of water, and what happens in this process, two more important compounds are produced, that are NADPH and ATP. These two compounds are very, very, very important in the next phase. In the next phase, we are going to see without this compound, we cannot do the work. So, in the light phase, three things are produced, which you are going to remember. One is oxygen. Two is NADPH. This is an electron carrying molecule, which is needed in the next phase. And another thing is produced, that is ATP. ATP is the only energy currency that is recognized by the plant cell. The solar energy that is coming from the sun is not, and the solar energies cannot be obtained directly by the plant cell. The plant cell cannot recognize those energy. That energy has to be transformed into ATP for the plants to recognize it, to use it. So all the energy from the plant, from the sun, is transformed into ATP that is required in the next phase. And what happens in the next phase? In a brief, I am going to say, and then I am going to describe it in brief. Let us say what happens. Carbon dioxide enters, okay, and there is a compound already present inside the plant, that is RUBP. We are going to discuss it later. That what happens is RUBP along with carbon dioxide and a lot of ATP it is converted to glucose. And while converting all these things, it also needs a lot of ATP here also, along with the NADPH, that is the electron carrying molecule. So this occurs in both the phases. Here the raw materials are produced, and here the raw materials are used to produce glucose. Now, where does all the process, all the thing takes place in the sun, in the plant? You may have the question, ma'am, where all these things are taken place. So we all know that the leaves are the kitchen of the plants, but inside the leaves where? These all things takes place in the mesophyll cell. Do remember that. So we are going to draw a mesophyll cell. So if I draw the structure of a leaf cell, what is the first thing that comes? That is the cuticle. What is the cuticle? It's a sponge-like layer that protects the leaf. Then it is epidermis. Then this is the epidermis. After the epidermis, next layer to the epidermis lies the mesophyll cell, but the mesophyll cell is divided in two parts: palisade mesophyll cell and spongy mesophyll cell. The first mesophyll layer, that is the palisade, that are present vertically. So these vertical cells are known as palisade mesophyll cell. These are what? The palisade mesophyll cells. And next to them are round oval type of cells present, that is the spongy mesophyll cell. That is the spongy mesophyll cells. And next to the mesophyll cell is the bundle sheet. We have, and then it is the vascular bundles and all the other cells. But we are going to focus on the mesophyll cells only. But before that, let me say, what is the difference between palisade and spongy? Apart from their structure, that is, one is vertical and another one is oval, round, or the position, that is, one is next to the epidermis and the other one is the next to the palisade. Apart from all the structure, what is the main difference? The main difference is all the process of photosynthesis takes place in palisade, not in spongy, because palisade has a lot of chloroplasts present in them. Spongy mesophyll cells, the chloroplast amount is much lesser. That is the reason why photosynthesis takes place in palisade mesophyll cells. And also the palisade mesophyll cells are tightly packed, while these spongy mesophyll cells are loosely packed, the air between them. So if I going to magnify one mesophyll cell, let us draw here. We are going to magnify one mesophyll cell. What is present in mesophyll cell? This is a cell. This is the vacuole, this is a nucleus, this is the ribosome, and this is the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi bodies, and what else? There are chloroplasts. These are chloroplasts. So if I magnify one chloroplast, what does a chloroplast looks like? It looks like this. It looks like this. It's double layer. And inside the chloroplast are stacks present, stacks of thylakoids present, like this. All the stacks of thylakoids present together, they are known as grana. So inside the chloroplast, what is present? That double layered membrane is present, and one stacks of thylakoid. One part is known as thylakoid, and all the stacks together makes granum. All the granum together makes grana, and this space is stroma. This is grana. Okay, remember one thing, the light phase takes place in grana and the dark phase takes place in stroma. Okay, so we have seen the structure of our chloroplast. Now we are going to magnify further. We are going to magnify one thylakoid. Let us take this one. We are going to magnify this. this thylakoid, what will we see is also double membrane. This thylakoid is also double membrane, and inside the thylakoid, two antenna pigments are present. You know the meaning of antenna is present in above your home for all the, I don't know, electricity, and not electricity, for all the TV signals and all. So here two antenna pigments are present. These antenna pigments are chlorophyll. So you know where the chlorophyll are found. So chlorophyll are found inside the chloroplast, inside the thylakoid, on the thylakoid membrane, as antenna pigments, also known as chlorophyll. What happens? This chlorophyll gets excited when a particular wavelength of light falls on it. They get excited. So when it gets excited, it helps in splitting the water into hydrogen ion and oxygen. The oxygen gets out, hydrogen ion remains, and these hydrogen ions, a lot of hydrogen ions are produced, and later on we will see, it is not present in your syllabus by the way, but in other further classes, in class 11 you are going to study this. Later on in this total structure, there is another structure present here, that is F0 and F1 part, F0 and F1 compound. So all the hydrogen that is produced from splitting of water, here those hydrogen ions comes and forms a hydrogen gradient. Produces a gradient, and what happens here? ADP is present. So when the hydrogen ion comes, it goes away from here and it rotates this thing. Making the ADP added up with a inorganic phosphate and forming ATP. And by the way, this process is known as photophosphorylation. Phosphorylation means addition, making of ATP from ADP plus inorganic phosphate, that is making of adenosine triphosphate from adenosine diphosphate and inorganic phosphate. This is known as phosphorylation. And photophosphorylation means all this process is happening in presence of light, in presence of photon. That is why it is known as photophosphorylation. It happens where? In the thylakoid. It is making a lot of all the hydrogen ions from the water, that is making a lot of ATP. And what else is present? Here there is a structure in your book, but it is not needed now. The structure is known as Z scheme. I will briefly going to say that. What happens in here, in these two parts where the chlorophyll is present, is known as photosystem. When light strikes, it breaks the water and then it becomes excited and it goes above, carrying all the hydrogen ion. While it goes up, it then gives the ion to a mobile electron carrier, that is plastoquinine and the plastocyanine. When the light falls in this antenna pigment or the photosystem 2, why 2 I'm going to say later. What happens? It breaks the light, it breaks the water, and what does it do? It carries the electron, it becomes excited and it carries the electron and it then gives the electron to a mobile electron carrier. A mobile electron carrier, that is plastoquinine, and this plastoquinine then gives to another compound that is present not here, that is known as cytochrome complex. The cytochrome complex then transfer this to another mobile electron carrier called plastocyanine, then it takes place, then it goes to here, and along with, and then again it is gone to another mobile electron carrier, which takes it to NADP reductase, and from NADP reductase, NADPH is formed. So we saw that all the things that we have seen earlier, that oxygen, that ATP, that NADPH is formed, how they are formed, we have seen it now. Okay, next.
will be uploaded soon in the upcoming video. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Leave a like and comment. Subscribe. And do share the video among your friends.